Hi there, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. In today's video, I'm going to be putting together my Project Life spread for the week of November 10th through November 16th, 2025, and I'm working with the Highs and Lows Storyteller Collection from Ali Edwards. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, so for this week, I plan to use the Highs and Lows Story Kit. So I planned out my project in the Storyteller classroom. So if you are a subscriber, you can head over to that classroom and see my lesson where I planned, I think 11 or 12, maybe 13 projects using this kit, including 3 Project Life spreads. So my main plan was for this spread was to use these today cards and do one for each day of the week. Now, originally I planned to actually kind of fill these out during the week itself, but that just didn't happen, which is totally fine. It's okay. I can still fill them in now. I'm going to use information I have from like my daily journal and my take a note to fill in a story for each day. So I'm going to lay them across the spread like that. So I used to do 12 by 12 Project Life, which was, I'm happy with the 9 by 12, but with the 12 by 12, you could do a full row across the middle. You had 8 squares, or rectangles, so you could do the 7 days of the week plus the title card. Now there's only 6, so I'm going to split Saturday and Sunday like that. I'm probably going to find something in my stash, probably maybe a stamp or something, to put the day of the week on each one and tell a story for that day. I also pulled out this paper as part of my planning to create 2 3x4 cards using this pattern paper. So if you're not familiar with the Storyteller kits, they come with 3x4 cards, but they also come with 6x8 and 12x12 paper. It's actually not 6x8, it's like 7x8 1/4, whatever the size is of the outside of the page protector. So you could use these as full pages in a 6x8 album. But if you don't do that size or you don't do projects outside the page protector, totally fine. A lot of them you can cut down and use in Project Life. So that's what I'm doing here. And by cutting it down and having 2 of them, I've got that repetition across the spread. I'm going to put this on here, and then I have this chipboard for this is my title card. I'll probably put a label sticker or something for my stash there. And then let's go through my photos. So I have 2 4x6 photos, and then the rest on this side are 3x4 photos. So usually when I do a Project Life spread, I will kind of zigzag my photos and cards, but because I kind of wanted to do all the days of the week across the middle, I'm going to have photos kind of clumped together like this, and it's just a different look. The other thing I planned to do for this spread was I had these 3 embellishment clusters of so these were in the kit. In this Storyteller kit, there's a lot of die cut pieces. So I pulled 3 of the butterflies and 3 word phrase strips, and I'm kind of pairing them together like this. And I'm going to use them to embellish some of my photos. So I decided to put this one on here, which I like currently in this season for the leaves, and then celebrating this and documenting it all. I want to mess around with the colors because I definitely want that one here, this one here, and this one on there. Now I need to figure out what color to go with each. I don't want red and green together because that's too Christmassy. And I don't want these 2 together. So I guess this one has to go here. And then I could do this one and then the pink and green like that. There, I think I like that arrangement. I don't love this green with the green in my photo, but I think it works. I think it'll be okay. So that's my initial setup for this spread. Because this was a planned project in advance using a kit, having this initial layout came together super fast. If I wasn't working with a kit, or even if I was working with a kit but hadn't planned in advance, it would take me a lot longer to figure out what card is going to go where. But because I already did that, I kind of have a basic plan for my entire spread. Essentially what I need to do now is figure out what I want to do to add the day of the week, do all of my journaling, which is going to take a while, so I will put that on super fast forward, add a label sticker for my dates. And then I need to decide if I want to add any other embellishments onto some of these other photos. So these 2 photos were from Friday. My friends came over and we did some crafting and we went to lunch and we did a little shopping. So that was kind of one of the highlights of the week, which will probably end up being over here, even though the photos aren't by it. I could potentially move this one like here and put like this photo over here. But I don't know, I think I really like this one here, but I will think about it as I work on the spread. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know that I love like all of 3 of these. Well, and this whole row has like 4 pumpkin photos, but I also kind of want these 2 photos together. And I kind of want this one. I guess I could do that, or even like that, and then these 2. I'll think about it as I work on the spread and kind of rearrange things, but there's not a ton to do besides my journaling at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and put you guys on voiceover and get the rest of the spread put together.
Okay, so this is a very journaling heavy spread, which is not super typical for me from Project Life, but something I wanted to challenge myself to do with these journaling cards. I think I don't typically journal a ton in Project Life because I fulfill that creative need elsewhere with my daily journal. And I do have a lot of journaling of my life in other projects. Project Life for me is more about focusing on the photos and the little moments as opposed to longer detailed journaling. However, it was fun to kind of stretch my Project Life muscles in this spread and try something a little bit different. I pulled over this stamp set that was from the One Little Word release this year because it does have the days of the week in these nice like small but long fonts, and I thought they would look really nice as subtitles to these Today cards, so I stamped the days of the week on there. And then I'm going to add my journaling on each of those cards. I went over to my stash and pulled out some labels from Kelly Perky. I am trying really hard to use up a lot of my products. I have a lot of older products that have been sitting in my stash. You can see I have a lot of these sticker sheets that have some of the labels missing, but not all of them. And I'm just trying really hard to use more of the things that I have in my stash and get them into my projects and get them out of my stash. So I will use up a sticker sheet in this project. You guys will see soon. But for now, I just pulled one of those label stickers to add my dates on this title card. And then I wanted to add this chipboard piece. I added just some white washi behind it just to add a little bit of a base for that chipboard piece. Honestly, I feel like you can barely see it. It didn't add that much, but I like the idea of putting washi tape behind an embellishment to kind of ground it a little bit more. I think because the background was so busy, it didn't do much, but it was still just, I don't know, I felt like it was doing something. So now I'm pulling over my journals and planners. So I have my Take a Note, which is the bottom one there. And then I also brought over my daily journal, which is the Hobonichi Cousin. If you are interested in learning more about those, I do have a lot of videos on my YouTube channel about those specific projects, and I will link some in the description box below for you to check out. But I pulled those over because I do keep those more in real time. So that's where I wrote down kind of what happened during the week as the week was unfolding. And I'm using that as the jumping off point to write the stories. At the time that I put this spread together, this week was over. I think it was maybe about 1 week ago. So a lot of these memories were still somewhat fresh in my mind. But if you asked me, what did I do on that Tuesday, I wouldn't know without looking at my journal or my planner. And then I could kind of use that to prompt those stories. What I decided to do was I pulled over this washi tape. It's black with some numbers on it, and I added it across the bottom of the journaling card, partially because I didn't think I would have enough journaling to fill up the entire card, and also I just liked the way that it looked. My initial thought was I was going to use a different roll of washi tape for each day of the week, but I realized that would look really busy. Maybe if I had 7 black and white ones, which I might have 7 neutrals, but instead, I decided to just use this numbered washi on every single one. I pulled over this pad of puffy stickers that was also from the Kelly Perky shop, and I have had these for a very long time. and I'm going to finally use them up. So on these cards, it says today, and then it has check boxes for easy and hard. And I decided to use one of the little puffy stickers to check off the box for each day. And I basically just gave it a general sentiment based on the overall what was going on that day. So was I working a lot? Did I have a relaxing day? And just kind of use that as a jumping off point. I didn't have any hard days in terms of like negative days, but I had hard days in terms of busy and a lot of work. So that's kind of what I used to designate easy versus hard. I also decided to use up the rest of the puffy stickers because you'll see once I add all 7 of the days, there's only a few left. So I'm going to use them to embellish the rest of the spread. I'm speeding it up quite a bit as I'm doing my journaling because that process does take a little bit longer. So this video is maybe a little bit shorter than some of my other ones just because a lot of what I was working on was the journaling. And I don't know about you guys, but watching someone just journal slowly is not that entertaining to me, at least. So the journaling itself, it's just kind of recapping each of my days. So if you've watched my Project Life videos in the past, you know I normally don't do Project Life in this way. I normally do some overview stories and maybe tell stories around specific themes. This week, though, what I'm doing is telling a story around each day. So essentially, I'm doing what happened on each day. And it's just a different approach. Some people definitely approach Project Life from this perspective every single time and every week. And that's totally fine. And it's a great way to do this project if you want to document what you do every single day, especially if you are someone who likes the concept of keeping a daily journal but wants it to be a little bit more photo heavy and in an album. You can definitely use Project Life as a daily journal. And I think that would be super fun. But for me, I use Project Life as a way to kind of focus on little moments as opposed to this is what happened Monday. But for this spread, I decided to really just kind of embrace that approach. And it was fun. So I'm just going to kind of talk through what I did this week a little bit just because it's going to take me a bit to get through all of the journaling. So I have had a ton going on at work lately, so much, but thankfully this week was kind of a little bit of a breather from work. If you watched my last video, my last Project Life video, the week before this, I was in Brooklyn or New York City for work. I had a 2-day trial. So if you don't know, I'm an attorney and I litigate in addition to a lot of other things. I'm a tax attorney. So I had a 2-day tax trial. And it was exhausting. And not just the work, but like it was very long days, traveling, being away from home. My train broke down on the way home. I didn't get home till super late because of that. It was just a mess. So when I got home, so this is the week after that, and I'm just like very burned out at this point. So thankfully Tuesday was Veterans Day, so I had the day off and I was able to have just like a quiet crafty day at home, which was so needed. And then I had some long work days. And I also had a doctor's appointment Wednesday morning. Friday, I had my friends over. I didn't work on Friday. I don't work every other Friday, and I was very happy to have this Friday off. I had 2 of my crafty friends, Jenn Creates on Instagram and Chappy Plans on Instagram and YouTube. I will link them in the description box below, but they're in that photo with me in the bottom left-hand corner of my spread. They came over to my house and we journaled together and caught up. Then we went out to lunch and did some shopping. So I do have only 2 photos from that on the spread because I have so many journal cards. There wasn't room for a lot of photos, but I did take some photos from that day and I wanted to document it. I liked doing this day-by-day approach in my Project Life this week because so much happened in the specifics of each day. So then Saturday was another busy day of just errands and stuff. We got groceries and then we had to do yard work. So I have that photo of me with all the leaves in the yard because this is November and I live in upstate New York, which means so many leaves all the time. This year I feel like was more leaves than usual, but we had to do all the yard work. And then Sunday I finally had another quiet day of rest. And I really liked being able to kind of reflect on this through this type of journaling because I was able to kind of see the ebbs and flows of my week in terms of work and stress and things that were going on and just getting a lot done. versus the quiet and the fun times. So it was kind of like Friday was a fun day with my friends. Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday were busy days full of getting a lot of stuff done. 2 of them for my job, 1 of them for life stuff. And then the rest of the days were more relaxing, quieter days. One of them I worked from home and just had a slower kind of admin day. And then 2 of the days, Tuesday and Sunday, I had off, and just kind of giving a recap of what I do on those days. Personally, I don't think I'd want to do this every single week because a lot of my quiet days off look the same, but they don't look the same as they did a year ago or 5 years ago. And they probably won't look the same a year from now or 5 years from now. So it's good to do kind of this snapshot once in a while. So what I did next, or what I'm doing next, is I went over to my stash and pulled over some white word phrase strips. And I'm just going through these to add a few sentiments onto some of the photos. And I'm going to pair those with some of the puffy stickers from that sheet to just use them up. There are just a few of those left, and I want to use all of them. And I will, so I can throw out that pad and have a sticker sheet completed. Feels so good to do that. You might have noticed too, or you might notice through the spread, that I go back and forth from the journaling and working on other pieces of the spread. So I do that for a couple of reasons. One, the journaling is my least favorite part. As I said, I kind of fill my cup for journaling in my creative journal that I keep daily and in my take a note where I add stickers and stuff. In Project Life, the journaling is kind of just my least favorite part of the spread, even though I like having it there and sometimes I enjoy it. It's just, I really enjoy the playing with stickers and photos and stuff more. So I want to take a break from it. Also, my hand gets tired from writing. I'm doing a lot of writing on this spread, and my hand just gets super tired. So I have to kind of take a break to give my wrist a break, because otherwise my handwriting will start to look sloppy, and I don't want that. I do want my journaling to look good. I do get a lot of comments on my handwriting, so I guess this is a fair point or fair time to say that I work really hard at my handwriting, trying to make it look neat, and that means writing slower. So my writing segments here, I am speeding them up 8 times speed. I do write very slowly, and I do that intentionally because that way I can make my handwriting a little bit better, not just because I want my handwriting to look good, but I feel like it also helps me kind of process what I'm writing and process my thoughts better. So part of my journaling practice, which I do in my daily journal, is just helping myself slow down and process thoughts. I am someone who's always going a mile a minute and wanting to get everything done and being productive at all times. And I know that that's not ideal. So when I am journaling, I am trying to slow down and really think about the words I'm writing and really process my emotions and my feelings about whatever's happening. And that is kind of the magic of journaling for me. So I do hear sometimes feedback from people where they're like, oh, I can't write that neat because I just need to write stuff down fast. And I get that. But for me, part of the process is that going slow and really making sure that I'm feeling the words. I guess that might sound a little silly, but that's just kind of my take on it. And the bonus of that is I do want my handwriting to look nice, and focusing on my handwriting does help me slow down. So I am wrapping up my journaling here on this last card. I had to do the last couple days back to back because I had finished everything else. So overall, this spread was very formulaic and kind of just followed this pattern. So it was pretty easy to put together. It was just time consuming to do all of the journaling, but definitely there wasn't as much thought involved because I followed a formula and used a kit. Here's a look at that completed spread. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Bye.